Don't use the family template to evaluate the dysfunctionality of your family. A second key is get a handle on your anxiety and your reactivity. And then thirdly, differentiate yourself from your dysfunctional family. I hope you'll subscribe, comment, like, and join this channel. We respond to your comments and your questions. Firstly, don't use the family template to evaluate the dysfunctionality of your family. If we are thinking inside the box to evaluate the box, we're not going to get a very clear picture of the difficulties of our family and the dysfunction of it. That's why it's important to get knowledge outside the box to help you evaluate a dysfunctional family. In other words, don't use the family rules, the family way of seeing things, as the ruler for evaluating behavior and beliefs about relationships. Don't use the family rules for how power works in relationships. For example, parents are always right, even when they are wrong, and they're not accountable to anyone. That could be a dysfunctional family rule and belief and a part of the subjectiveness that we grew up learning. Don't use the family super self as the way of expressing or not expressing emotions. In other words, this is the way we always did it, so this must be the way you always do it. No, we want to think outside the box and go, this may not be the best way to do it. What are new ways or different ways I could express emotions, affection, love, acceptance? Learn other ways and learn your chosen ways to say express emotions or affection versus the assumed or programmed ways that we have become accustomed to. Again, it's difficult and it's problematic to use our programming to evaluate our programming. We want to look outside that programming. And so that's why I would encourage you to step outside the family to see the family. We can do that by Googling, for example. Googling behaviors as to what is normal thinking, feeling, what are normal behaviors and actions and responses. We may not have been aware of any of those growing up. We can Google trauma and its effects, how feelings in dysfunctional families work. We can Google dysfunctional narcissistic families, dysfunctional alcoholic families. We can look at videos, podcasts, counselors, teachers, pastors on these topics who are talking about healthy families. So we're getting information outside the box to change our subjectivity inside the box. And that's what's really important, because we need a new paradigm, a new subjectivity, a new awareness about what is normal, what is healthy. Dysfunctional families use unhealthy comparisons and contrasts. They compare and contrast and come up with the wrong conclusions. For example, we never let our kids have friends stay overnight because it's not safe or it's not a good idea. It might expose the dad's alcoholism in the family if we had little Billy's friend come over and stay. Now, the Joneses let other kids stay overnight, but we are right and they are wrong. Again, they make unhealthy comparisons and come to the wrong conclusions. We want to begin to learn a new way of using healthy comparisons and contrasts and going, that's not what I want. That's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to behave. It's not even how I want to feel. So how can I learn to feel differently, behave differently, think differently? Other rules are don't trust others. That could be a programmed rule that has become a part of your awareness. Never trust other people outside the family. Don't trust outside beliefs or understandings. For heaven's sakes, don't go see a counselor who might influence you and maybe help you to see how our family hasn't been so healthy. In good families, the belief could be in a toxic family. In good families, kids should not talk, think, or feel. That's a belief of a dysfunctional family. That gets passed on to us. And the belief that we are more right and better than those outside our family. Don't share our family secrets with anyone outside the family because it's not safe. And they don't understand. And they won't understand. Occasionally we use physical violence here in our family, and we think that's okay occasionally. And that's a programmed dysfunctional family belief that's been integrated and programmed for probably many generations. And we don't want to look outside that bubble, and the family doesn't want you to look outside that bubble. Another belief would be image is more important than substance or relationships. Image is the most important thing, not relationships. That could be a belief. And if you step outside the family and take a look at it over at the box and go, that's not what I believe. That's not what I want to believe. I've been programmed to believe that, but that's not what I want to believe. I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to begin to be different. Secondly, get a handle on your anxiety and your reactivity. For dysfunctional families, anxiety is the glue. And I want to repeat that over and over again. I do that in almost all my videos. Anxiety is the glue that holds us to dysfunctional families and dysfunctional relationships. And then reactivity from the anxiety is the hardening of that glue. It really hardens it and cements us into that. So we want to reduce our anxiety. We want to reduce our reactivity so we're not caught by the glue and hardened by the reactivity to the unhealthy relationships and programming. Dysfunctional families have a singular self. It's called a super self. In fact, all families have a super self. That super self in healthy families is not as unhealthy. That's the more, hey, we do love each other. We do want to support each other. We do care about each other. But we also value self-differentiation and individuality and people coming to understand their own views and own beliefs. And we still accept you and love you. In a dysfunctional family, that super self is very rigid, very enmeshed, and you better not step outside that super self, emotionally, mentally, or behaviorally. You better not do that. This super self runs on anxiety, as I mentioned, with each family member. Each family member is pinged by this togetherness, and it's even intergenerational. When mom gives you that look, that's a ping. Anxiety goes up, and then often there's a reactivity. Either out of fear, worry, hurt. When your sister feels hurt all the time, that's a ping. And then we have a reciprocal relationship with that pinging. They ping, we get reactive, we react, they get pinged, and back and forth and back and forth. So if we don't add more calmness or lower that reactivity and lower that anxiety, we stay stuck in the pattern. When your dad is demanding and he requires you to do everything, our anxiety goes up and we get pinged, and we then are unhappy inside. We feel a discomfort, dis-ease inside. And out of that, we want to react. And we can react in A, we're angry, frustrated, and just react harshly. Or B, we just give in and just comply and go, well, let me just do what he wants and go on with that. Then I won't have to hear about it. But that's an A and B choice. We want to learn C choices. So we're not just either reactive or compliantly reactive. Pinging happens first, then the reactivity follows. The pinging is often unconscious, maybe part of that subcortical part of our brain. Reactivity is something we are often aware of and can see it happening. What's powerful is if we can learn to identify not just when we're reactive, but when we get pinged and why. That can be a very powerful means to healing and recovery. Pinging is a ping that includes threat or fear or anxiety. We read the threat, then we cower, or we rebel, or we get angry, or we respond with, okay, we just comply. But almost never in a dysfunctional family do we respond with a self that's lowered anxiety and calm and matter of fact. We also, when we get pinged, may try to appease others, or get angry, or over-sympathize, or feel guilty, or become over-serious, or engage in triangles. That's another way that we can be reactive. Triangles are reactive things. As an adult, we may feel demeaned or childlike, controlled by that pinging. I react with hurt or anger or compliance. Those are things that we do as adults in reaction to that pinging. For example, I can get angry with Dad when I feel he is being over-controlling. And I reactively say, "Stop it, Dad. I'm not your slave. I hate it when you do this." By the way, we have reactively asked him to stop, but we still haven't grown up or detached from the pinging or the issue. We've just reacted to the ping. And we think, oh, well, I was being adult. I told him to stop. And I told him I'm not his slave. And I hate it when you do that. See how individuated I am? No, you're just reactive in an angry, irritable way, which Dad's going to ignore, more than likely. And so your relationship hasn't really changed at all. It's just now he's upset and you're upset until the next moment. Or we might respond, well, I'm so sorry. We might bodily and verbally cower and give in. We internalize what's being said to us. Well, I'll do better. Yeah, you're right. I should have known better. I don't know why I did it that way. The ping is from our unhealthy emotional connectedness. It is that connectedness with a dysfunctional family of origin. The reactivity is the unhealthy result of the pinging. And again, the power is, if we can get to the pinging awareness for us, there's a lot more freedom and choices we can make at that point than if we only stay aware of the reactivity. Because I would like to grow and learn to be not pinged, more detached. Somebody says, if Dad's being controlling, I am nonplussed. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to do what he says. It's not a threat. It just doesn't matter to me. He's being inappropriate as an adult. And that's how I'm able to view him more objectively rather than he's hurting me with his controllingness. No, he's not. He's just being controlling. You just wish he was a different dad and was nicer and would love you more or whatever. The antidote to that pinging and reactivity is practicing greater internal detachment. Then we are less affected by our family of origin's dysfunctional super self and becoming calmer and more an authentic self, not running on the electrical current of emotions of the dysfunctional family. Thirdly, a key to separating or detaching from your dysfunctional family, differentiate yourself from your dysfunctional family. When I say differentiate, I mean accept and acknowledge your differentness. Many of us have not given ourselves permission to be different from our family of origin or to see things differently. We see it within the box. Can I give myself permission to see it outside the box, even though the family sees it inside the box? Their normal was programmed into us to be the norm. Dysfunctional families expect us to feel the same as they do, believe the same as they do, react as we have been programmed to react, and prioritize things as they do. What's important and what's not? Well, something may be important to them, but not important to you. That's a differentiation. I'm going to express that differentiation. I understand, for example, mom, dad, whatever, that's what you like and that's what you prioritize, but I have some different priorities. That's a differentiating statement. And then I don't have to change them and I don't have to change me. I just differentiated. We're not the same. Have a great day. Work on thinking differently, feeling differently, reacting differently from your dysfunctional family. When they are highly charged, work to be calm. When they deride emotions and think those are all silly and ridiculous, then become more aware of and express your emotions, again, in a matter-of-fact, calm way, because that's what you choose to do. It may not be their belief, but that's your belief. When they want to keep secrets, well, then I'll be more open about my family with others. Why do I have to keep their secrets? I understand there's respect and propriety. I understand all of that. But I'm not going to be the secret keeper for crazy things in the family that were wrong and that I can't express that as just a part of my life experience that I had. I'm not expressing it to shame anyone. It's just the reality of it. But shame is so common in dysfunctional families, so we got to keep all those secrets inside the family. Don't tell anyone. For example, you might think about what would they do, and then think the opposite of that might be more healthy. So think what is normal for your dysfunctional family and start to work towards doing the opposite. For example, my family never had anyone over, hardly ever. I don't know what kind of friends they had. Not really. I just didn't see a lot of real close friends. They had a few, but it just wasn't a priority. It wasn't an emphasis for them. Well, maybe I would like to have friends, and I'd like to have friends over. This is a difference between them and me, a differentiation. My dad never hugged me. I would love hugging my children. So that's a difference between him and me. I will do this, and this is a difference between him and me. We never shared feelings in my family. I come to believe feelings are very important, to learn to identify and express them. This is a difference between me and them. I don't identify and express my feelings in a weaponized way, but a calm, matter-of-fact way with my dysfunctional family. This actually tends to lower their defensiveness if I share feelings in a non-weaponized way. And I remember practicing to tell my mom that I felt angry, because we would never talk about feeling angry. We might be angry and act angry, but you can never just identify and express anger. You could not do that. So I wanted to practice with Mom. How do I tell Mom I feel angry in a way that's not weaponized? And I began to work on, well, Mom, by the way, I do feel some anger about that. And that, da-da-da-da. It was matter of fact and calm. Or, Mom, that did hurt. And that, da-da-da-da. That I can do that in a calm, matter of fact way, and it tends to pass and go through. Rather than, Mom, you're making me angry. Mom, you've hurt me so bad. Why do you always hurt me? That's a weaponized way of expressing your feelings. Because my feelings are mine. They're not to be used to change you, but I can express them. Again, ask yourself, in what ways am I truly different from my dysfunctional family? Do I want to show and express love like they did? Or another way? Do I truly share the same political, religious, social, financial, spiritual beliefs as them? Do I believe shaming, guilting, and controlling are the right way to treat people? Many of us have pretended to be different from our families. Then when we interact with them, we fall back or regress to being children or not hold on to our beliefs, standards, and boundaries. And then we fall back under the spell of the superself. This pretending is what Murray Bowen called, in family systems theory, the pseudo-self. That's your pseudo-self. If your pseudo-self is one way one time and one way another time, it's not a real self. It's a pseudo-self. What's the difference between pretending and really being different? Pretending or being a super self. It tends to be inauthentic. It may be a wish, but it's not real for you. You haven't fully owned it or believe it. Changing who we are with different audiences. I'm over here with my close friends, and by golly, I believe this and I do that, and this is what's right. Then I get back with my family of origin, and I can't say any of that. And I feel guilty if I do. Their pressure or influence, I then start to be that child again. So now I have these two selves, and that's kind of the pseudo-self. We all do it. It's not for the sake of shaming that I say this. This is common for all of us as we're growing up and learning to be a singular self. Another way of us being a pseudo-self or pretending is agreeing with others when you don't. But I just want to, I'll just do it your way. Being intimidated by others' beliefs about you, pressure to conform, caving into others, then our self is less solid, is the point. And all of us have a less solid self, but we want to grow that into a more solid self. And then what does it mean to really be different from your family of origin and being a true self? Being the same with any audience. Friends, family, teachers, pastors, people in authority. I am who I am across the board. Discovering and owning a non-negotiable self. In other words, this is something that I believe, and that's non-negotiable. I would recommend any of you to journal how you are truly different from your dysfunctional family in all areas of life. Emotional functioning, love, affection, all that. Financial understandings, beliefs, spiritual views, political views. How are you different? And begin to give yourself permission to be different. I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day and be wise.